and welcome back to my class. This is Rumana Ali. I hope you all are doing well. In the previous session, we have learned that the alveoli of the lung has high partial pressure of oxygen. Because of the higher concentration, it moves towards the lower concentration, that is in the deoxygenated blood, and from the deoxygenated blood the carbon dioxide moves into the alveoli. This type of exchange of gases takes place. After this exchange, the oxygen which is present in the oxygenated blood was transported by the alveoli into the blood. This oxygenated blood contains higher concentration of oxygen, but here in the cells of the different organs, the human organs are made up of different cells, right? So all the different cells require oxygen to form ATP. We all know that glucose when break down in the presence of oxygen, or glucose when react with the oxygen, it forms ATP as well as carbon dioxide as a waste product. So in this way, from the oxygenated blood, the oxygen is transported into the cells. Now during this transport, during this exchange, what are the things that are going to happen? In this session I am going to explain you that. So in the blood, we know that blood contains different components. If this is our blood vessel, in the blood vessel different cells are present, like RBC is also present, and watery liquid that is called as plasma. So plasma is also found, and in the RBC hemoglobin pigment, hemoglobin molecules are present. Each hemoglobin molecule shows 4 heme group and globin proteinaceous chain. So this hemoglobin molecule can bind to 4 molecules of oxygen. So once the oxygen is transported from the alveoli into the blood, 3% of oxygen is dissolved in plasma and remaining 97% of oxygen binds with hemoglobin. So in this way, the binding of oxygen to the hemoglobin takes place in the red blood cells of our blood vessel. Now once the oxygen binds to the hemoglobin would not let the oxygen to go. It would not let the oxygen to releases from its structure, from the heme group. But here the cell is present. If it is an organ, this organ of our body is made up of different cells. So let's take only one cell. This cell requires oxygen in a continuous manner in order to form ATP. If the oxygen would not supply to the cell, then it may die. It cannot form ATP and it may die. So this oxygen requires, this cell requires oxygen, and the oxygen can be supplied from the blood into the cell. But here the hemoglobin binds to the oxygen, it is not releasing. So here what happens? In the cells, the reaction like glucose plus oxygen forms ATP plus carbon dioxide takes place. So in this way, high concentration of carbon dioxide is present in the cell. Now if the oxygen has to enter into the cell, if the cell requires oxygen, the cell releases this carbon dioxide into the blood. So the carbon dioxide from the cell reaches the blood vessel, and in the blood vessel red blood cells are found. Inside the red blood cells hemoglobin are present, and hemoglobin binds to the oxygen. Now to release that oxygen, the carbon dioxide is released by the cell. Once the carbon dioxide enter into the blood vessel, then the affinity, the binding capacity of the hemoglobin decreases. So as soon as the affinity of the hemoglobin gets decreases, one molecule of oxygen is released by the hemoglobin and it can enter into the cell. The cell again can perform the reaction to form ATP. In this way, the carbon dioxide, the higher concentration of carbon dioxide into the cell, if it is present, then the cell releases that carbon dioxide or transport that carbon dioxide into the blood vessels. Once the carbon dioxide concentration is more in the blood vessels, then the hemoglobin can releases the oxygen, and that oxygen can enter into our cells or tissues. Now during this process, many of the things can be seen. So what are that things? Let us see. So first thing is, out of 100% of carbon dioxide, 7% of carbon dioxide is dissolved in our plasma, and 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide goes and it binds to the hemoglobin. This is our hemoglobin. In the previous session I already told you that once the oxygen binds to the hemoglobin, then that hemoglobin can be named as oxyhemoglobin. But if one molecule is removed from the hemoglobin, then it would not remain as a oxyhemoglobin. Instead, the carbon dioxide goes and binds to the hemoglobin, and this molecule becomes carbaminohemoglobin. And this carbaminohemoglobin, if it is formed, then the blood becomes deoxygenated. If one molecule gets releases from the hemoglobin, then the blood becomes deoxygenated. So, only 25% of the oxygen can be transferred from the blood into the cells. Now, remaining 70% of the carbon dioxide is present in RBC. Now, this carbon dioxide undergoes certain reactions. This carbon dioxide mixes up with the cytoplasm of the red blood cells. Every cell contains watery liquid. Inside the red blood cells also, the watery liquid is present, that is cytoplasm is present. So, the carbon dioxide reacts with the water that is found in the red blood cells or in the blood, then it forms H2CO3. H2CO3 is carbonic acid. So, acid is released after the carbon dioxide reacts with water molecules. This acid splits and it gives H plus ions and HCO3 negative ions. H positive ions and HCO3 negative ions are released by the breaking of carbonic acid molecule. So, once again I will explain you this one. Once the oxygen reaches the blood, it binds with the hemoglobin, it forms oxyhemoglobin. Now, oxygen is bound to the hemoglobin very strongly. It is not letting the oxygen to go into the cells. So, there are certain reactions that takes place. Due to these reactions, the hemoglobin can releases the oxygen. So, what are that reactions? This oxyhemoglobin can releases one molecule of oxygen when the carbon dioxide is passed from the cells into the blood. Carbon dioxide is released into the cells, it is in higher concentration. So, the cells, they releases or they transport this carbon dioxide gas into the blood vessels. Once the carbon dioxide reaches the blood vessels, they enter into the plasma and even in the red blood cells of the blood vessels. So, 7% of the carbon dioxide is absorbed, it is dissolved in the plasma, and 20 to 23% of the carbon dioxide goes and it binds to the hemoglobin. This binding of carbon dioxide to the hemoglobin decreases the affinity, decreases the binding capacity of the hemoglobin for oxygen. So, hemoglobin binding capacity for oxygen gets decreases once the carbon dioxide binds to the hemoglobin. If the carbon dioxide binds to the hemoglobin, we name that compound as a carbaminohemoglobin. So, the formation of carbaminohemoglobin forces the hemoglobin molecule to releases one oxygen molecule. Out of 4 oxygen, 1 oxygen can get releases by the hemoglobin and it can be transported to the different cells of our body. Now, 70% of the carbon dioxide is present in the cytoplasm of red blood cells. That carbon dioxide react with the water, it forms carbonic acid. This carbonic acid further break down into H positive ions and also into HCO3 negative ions. This is how the formation of H positive and HCO3 negative ions takes place, and due to the binding of carbon dioxide to the hemoglobin, oxygen is released and it enters into the cells. Not only this factor, there are 3 factors that affect the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. So, let us list out that factors now. So, the factors that affects the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen include, first one is binding of carbon dioxide to the hemoglobin, that is formation of carbaminohemoglobin. So, once the carbon dioxide concentration gets increases, it binds to the hemoglobin and decreases its affinity for binding with the oxygen. This is how the release of oxygen and transport of oxygen into the cells takes place. What are the other factors that enforces the hemoglobin to release the oxygen molecule? So, other factor is increase in the concentration of H plus ions. Here the reaction is going on. which forms H positive and HCO3 negative ions. So this H positive ion can also goes and binds to the hemoglobin. So once the H plus ions goes and binds to the hemoglobin, it also decreases the affinity of hemoglobin to bind with the oxygen. So this is also one of the factor, and the other factor is temperature. So here the carbonic acid is formed, the acidic nature increases, this leads to increase in the temperature. So temperature is also one of the factors that affects the binding capacity of hemoglobin for oxygen. This is what happens to release only one molecule of oxygen. Remaining 3 molecules of oxygen are there with the hemoglobin. Only one oxygen gets releases and it is getting transported to the cell of our organ. So all these things are going to happen in the blood after it takes up the oxygen from our lungs, and this oxygen is supplied to the cells of our body in order to form ATP. If the concentration of carbon dioxide is high, and if the concentration of H positive ions is also high, and if the temperature is also increases, then all these factors are responsible to decrease the binding capacity of hemoglobin for oxygen, and these are the factors because of which the hemoglobin can leave the oxygen molecule getting transported into the cells. So once the hemoglobin leaves the oxygen molecule, it can be transported to the cell of our body, and in the cells the glucose is combined with the oxygen and it results in the formation of ATP, which is very essential for the cells to work. So we have learned that carbonic acid is formed when carbon dioxide reacts with the water molecule, and that carbonic acid breaks into H positive and HCO3 negative ions. H positive ions can bind with the hemoglobin. So here hemoglobin is acting as a buffer. Buffer means anything that maintains the level of the pH, the hydrogen ion concentration. So if this carbon dioxide, it is going to break down, once again I will write the reaction, forms carbonic acid, this splits and gives positive and negative ions. This positive ions can goes and binds to hemoglobin. So this is our cell. Hemoglobin can bind to the H positive ions. In this way, this hemoglobin is helping in maintaining the pH of the cell. So this is the cytoplasm of the cell. In the cytoplasm, there will be neutral amount of hydrogen positive ions are present because they are going and binding to the hemoglobin. So in this way, hemoglobin is acting as a buffer and helps in maintaining the pH. Now what about these negative ions? If the positive ions are binding to the hemoglobin, then where these negative ions will go? So these negative ions will go in the plasma. This is the plasma. So they will go in the plasma, and in the plasma they are present. So in this way, as they are moving into the plasma and as they are moving towards the hemoglobin, the positive and the negative ions are present in an equal amount inside the cell. So it helps in maintaining the pH of the cell. If the hydrogen ions, H positive ions are more, this one is our pH scale, 1, 7, and let's take 12 here. So 7 is the neutral pH. Now H plus, H positive ions are more, then the pH will be more. If H plus ions will be more, then the pH gets decreases. So they are inversely proportional. If hydrogen positive ions are more, if they are increases in number, the pH level gets decreases. So this is what happens. Now to maintain the pH, to make it neutral, the hydrogen ions goes and binds to the hemoglobin and they come out in the plasma. Let us see the different curves that can be formed based on the binding of oxygen to the hemoglobin. So firstly, at the normal conditions, when the oxygen from the alveoli is taken up by the blood, then inside the blood red blood cells are present, and in the red blood cells hemoglobin is found. That hemoglobin binds to the oxygen. So as the partial pressure of oxygen is high, they can bind to the hemoglobin, that is the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin will also get increases. As soon as the partial pressure of oxygen gets increases, likewise the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin also gets increases in this way. So this is what happens in the blood. This type of curve can be drawn based on the binding of oxygen to the hemoglobin, based on the affinity of hemoglobin to bind with the oxygen. So this kind of sigmoid curve can be drawn in this way. If the partial pressure of oxygen is getting increases, the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin is also getting increases. But once the oxygen reaches the tissues or it reaches the cell, then the partial pressure of oxygen will be increased inside the cells, and the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin also gets increases. This type of curve can be drawn based on the partial pressure of oxygen that is found in the tissues. The partial pressure of oxygen will remain same, it is going to get increases, but based on the partial pressure of oxygen, the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin will be varies in different things, in the blood, in tissues as well as in lungs. So, in the blood it is showing a sigmoid curve, but in tissues it is shift to right. This is called as shift to right. That means the affinity of hemoglobin to bind with the oxygen is more in the tissue. So, this type of curve can be seen. Why the partial pressure of oxygen gets increases? It is due to the release of carbon dioxide from the cell. So, as soon as the carbon dioxide percentage gets increases, as the carbon dioxide goes and binds to the hemoglobin, the partial pressure of oxygen in the tissues gets increases. So, this is what happened, and this carbon dioxide, the increase in the carbon dioxide that decreases the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen is called as Bohr's effect, and this can be seen in our tissues, right. Now, after it is used up by the tissues, carbon dioxide is released. That carbon dioxide is transferred to the blood. Now, the carbon dioxide concentration is more in blood. This carbon dioxide is more in blood. Now, it needs to be transferred into the lungs, as in the lungs carbon dioxide concentration is less. Always the gases are going to move from higher concentration to the lower concentration. So, the carbon dioxide concentration is less in lungs, so it is going to move from blood into the lungs. This point also one curve is made in this way, and this curve explains when the carbon dioxide gets decreases, hydrogen ion gets decreases, temperature gets decreases, partial pressure of oxygen increases, due to which the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin also gets increases. So, this type of curve can be seen in our lungs. This type of curve can be drawn based on the partial pressure of oxygen that is found in the lungs. Partial pressure of oxygen is same, but the percentage, it is different in our tissues and it is different in our lungs. So, here you can see the partial pressure of oxygen is same in the tissues, in our blood and as well as in our lungs, but the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin varies. So, this graph is called as oxygen dissociation curve, which can be drawn based on the partial pressure of oxygen and the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin. I hope it's clear to you. That's all for today. Thank you.